Hi, I'm Sheila Kuehl. Welcome to Get Used to It. It's a monthly issues discussion show of things of interest to the lesbian and gay community. And today we're going to talk with, and I hope about, youth. Our movement does a lot of talking about the young people, our youth coming up, the future of the movement. We talk a lot about them. We rarely talk to them, or even more rare, do we listen to them. So today, that's what we're going to do, talk about sort of what it's like, what it's been like, and hopefully what it will be like. We're coming to you today from the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Community Services Center, specifically from the youth shelter, the Gabe Crooks and Jurgen Tilson Youth Shelter, here at the center. And I'm pleased to introduce my guests to you, John Sherwood, who is 19, who is temporarily residing here at the shelter and has a job as a lighting technician at the Ivar Theater, which, for those of you who are in other cities, is here in Hollywood. Welcome, John.
Thanks.
And Angel Angeles, who is only 2 days away as we speak from being 19, who's a student at LA City College studying sociology and probably people watching, and we'll find out more about him. Welcome, Angel. And Mindy Michels, who's 21, who's a senior at UCLA, majoring in anthropology, who's an activist in gay and lesbian organizations at UCLA and nationally, and we'll hear more about that from her. Welcome, Mindy.
Hello.
So thanks all for being here. I guess the first thing I want to ask you to share with me and with everybody watching is sort of the past, I guess we would think about this segment, sort of how your life was, what your life was like growing up gay or lesbian, when it first occurred to you that this might be the case, how you felt about it, when it, first occurred to you, etc. Anybody? John, you want to start?
Let's see. I don't know really where to start, I guess.
Well, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Norwalk, California.
What's that like, that community, for people who don't know?
I don't know. There weren't really, as far as I knew, many gay or lesbian people, period, there. I was about 15, and I was looking in the newspaper one day and it said, live talk, gay men, but I'm not gay. So I called it, because I had this need to talk to men. So I called it, and I met somebody who did live in Norwalk who was gay. And we got to talking, and he told me about the Long Beach Community Services Center, or the center there, and they have rap groups for teens, 23 and under, just like here at the LA Center. A lot of the stuff is for 23 and under. And I was going, and I wasn't really comfortable with it at first,
Not comfortable with
the sexuality, and being around the people, but I still kept on going back, So.
When did you first suspect that you might be gay?
I was 15. What happened is this boy who moved into where I was living in a mobile home park. And we were talking, and he just came out with it, "Are you gay?" And I said, "Huh?" We were talking, and next thing you know, we were kissing and everything, and so that's when I started questioning it, not liking it, but then I, dealt with it.
So, did it scare you that you might be gay?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Why?
I mean, I could probably think of 100 answers to this question, but...
Why? Which one?
What was the scary part?
I think being my family, abandonment, or, something would go wrong, or, I was just one of those people. That's
so a couple of things, like you didn't want to be one of those people, and also, a lot of people would be angry or, reject you, or...
Yeah.
Is that what happened with your family? Or?
Yeah, kinda. It was really weird, I was involved in a lot of drugs, too. And I've been clean thanks to the center where I'm staying. with their program they have. You know, they got me the job at Ivar.
Great.
So, let's see, where was I?
About your family.
Okay, and so I told my family, you know, and we got in a big old argument, so I told them out of anger. Well, yeah, you know what, I'm gay. You know, told them, and that was just like, everyone just stopped, froze. They went in the back, you know, to go cry. I left, was all mad, went and stayed at a friend's house. Didn't talk to anybody for about a month.
Did they know where you were?
Yeah, they knew where I was. I was in the same mobile home park.
Didn't go too far.
Yeah, just down the street, a few trailers.
Right.
About a month later came, and I finally made a step to talk to my mom. I moved back in. Everything was fine, she said. And
she said it was okay?
Yeah, everything was fine, you know. So I moved back. You know, we got into... Well, actually, this one was my sister and my brother-in-law. This time we got into a big old fight. You know, and some things were said back and forth, hateful things, you know, hurtful things. So I left again, came here to the center. I was here for like a week because I wasn't ready to straighten out my life. Left, went back to Norwalk, stayed in and did drugs at my friend's house. Got sick of that real quick. Came back down here, stayed with somebody who I was seeing. And he was still in drugs, so I got sick of that. Came back here in July and been here since, and been sober and have a job.
Great. So. Did you feel bad about yourself when you thought you were gay?
At first, yeah, because I'm like, no, I can't be gay, you know, I'm not going to be gay, I'm going to change. I'm going to change myself, you know, and I dated a couple girls, you know, but I don't know, I was like, okay, bye, you know, we were just like, we were sisters or something, you know, we just had too much fun together. So, I mean, you know, we became friends, you know, and later on, you know, they found out, and they're like, oh, great, you know. That's so cool.
Did you know anybody in your school who was gay, or anywhere to go to talk to anybody about it? I guess till you saw this thing in the paper.
No, see, I was too afraid to even talk about what I was thinking, you know, and there were a few guys at school who probably were, I can't say for sure, but who I always thought were, but could never get the courage, you know, to even become their friends. There was nothing in my school system, nothing like Project 10. You
know, it sounds totally familiar, only like 100 years later. I mean, it sounds, it's sort of like we have all of this stuff now, and we have places for people to go, which is great, like there's some place maybe to, you know, rap groups or whatever, but still, it's very individual and terrifying, I think, for everybody, no matter what's out there. Although, I don't know, how about with you, Angel? What was it like for you? When did you first start to suspect you were gay?
Around 3.
3 years old?
I guess I was one of those people who like really knew from the start, but I remember walking down the block and I saw that like a homoerotic publication, and it's like, oh. And it's like, right around then I pretty much knew. I mean, I could not really trace it all the way back to when I was born kind of thing, but I pretty much knew, just going along, that I was gay all along. I mean, I could even pinpoint like certain times when I would go through denial, and I knew that I was going through denial.
I mean, even as a very young boy.
I remember in 3rd grade, I was like, I set myself up for, oh, well, I'm gonna like a girl. Yeah, she's really cute and stuff, and oh, this is in 3rd grade, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it is a phase for me. And I'm like, but that was like really, I knew I was lying to myself. But I really did pretty much know all along.
So, but there's a difference between knowing and knowing, because you know, you, like you say, you really want to be straight, you really try, then you wonder, then you think, well, maybe it's a phase, maybe I'll change, because they tell us, oh, this is a phase you're going through, and a lot of times parents say that because they're, I think parents are scared for us partly. I mean, I know a lot of parents feel it's like hatred almost, but most of them seem like, oh, you don't want to be that because you're not going to have a good life. I mean, everybody's going to hate you, kind of thing, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, in my culture, it's more like, it's nothing you shouldn't be. I mean, those are the people who are diseased and really ugly looking, and they live off, and they're just like social pariahs. And it's almost like they're segregated onto like one island kind of feeling. Like, well, we don't have any in our family. There's none in this city, but you could probably find some over there. That kind of feeling.
Well, that's sort of the enforced invisibility that we have, where it makes all of us feel so lonely when we first think of it. Did you feel as though you might be the only person like this, or did you come in contact right away with other gay boys?
The first gay person that I met was in 5th grade. I really had not come into contact with anyone else. I don't remember exactly when I found out what the word gay meant, but until 5th grade also. And even then I wasn't sure that my friend was gay.
Did you feel sort of alienated from other people?
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's a big secret to keep, kind of.
Definitely. Even in that little circle of friends that were gay in 5th and 6th grade, they didn't even want to mention the subject at all. They didn't want to approach it. It's just that we're gay, we know, why do we have to talk about it? Nobody else needs to know.
So what was it like then being in junior high? Did you come more to grips with the fact, at least to yourself, that you were gay?
Yeah, I pretty much knew again, but I still didn't want anyone else to know. I mean, the only people there were only 2 other gay people in the school. One was very obvious, but still closeted and just really into denial, saying, I'm not gay at all. And not to work on stereotypes, but he was a stereotypical gay person.
Well, you said something to me yesterday when we talked about how people would adopt mannerisms as sort of to say, I am, but I'm going to say I'm not, but almost as though trying out a stereotypical personality. Did you find that at your school?
Yes, actually, at that same school, just the lisp, the limp wrist, and the swish. And for me, that was like really interesting that he said, no, I'm not gay, and he would do this constantly, and just say, oh, look at that guy.
So it's almost as though we really want to tell, but we can't.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think this is true with all secrets. People tend to want to tell them, and instead of telling them, they show them. But it's a scary thing. So, did you come to a place where you felt comfortable with your sexuality?
I became a lot more comfortable with my sexuality like about 2 years ago. Like my first gay pride festival. So I'm like, wow, lots of gay people, and they don't look like this or that.
So do you think it's easier for young people now than what you imagine it might have been like before gay pride festivals or whatever?
I would definitely say so. I mean, now it's like even the gay youths have their own little clubs. I mean, I can't really imagine how far back before Stonewall or anything else. Like, what did they do? Where'd they go?
They did the same thing. They just were very, very hidden.
I mean, for us, it's like, it's almost to the point where it's mainstream, because even the heterosexuals know it's a gay club and they still go. And it's like, if they know anyone who's gay, oh, take me to your club, let's go. So, but still I hear also a lot of pain in it. It's like we have to go through all this pain, and then finally we kind of find our own. And also, was it the same with your family, difficult with your family, or impossible? I mean, are they? I'm not too sure about how my family really feels. They gave me like a superficial answer when I told them that I was gay. I thought all along that they knew I was gay, but didn't want to deal with it, to like glaze it over, saying, oh, well, he's just that person, not necessarily with a sexuality. For me, I thought that I was giving definite hints. I mean, not just lightly dropping them around, like practically hitting them over the head with it, but I never said that I was gay. But when I finally did, they said, okay. And I don't know what was behind that. I was wondering if they were still trying to deny it. So I don't really know exactly how they feel, and I think they're homophobic, but I don't think they're willing to admit it.
Well, one of the things that I found is that the family, even if they seem to be accepting, will treat your straight sisters or brothers. They're excited about their relationships. You know, they want to have the boyfriend or the girlfriend over the dinner. They never, hardly ever say, and you know, why don't you bring your boyfriend? I mean, in some families, they do, but it's almost like it takes an effort. You know, they're going to be so supportive, and I don't find that very often. Although I think PFLAG, you know, they really try, but a lot of times their kids are a lot older than you are. By the time they get to that kind of acceptance, and they figure, well, this is how they're going to be. They're not going to get well, you know, or whatever. How about you, Mindy? What was your life like before you were so incredibly much an activist?
Well, I actually came out a lot later than either of them did. I don't think that I came to a specific realization where I could say I'm a lesbian until I was 19. And I actually had a boyfriend for 3 years before that and had dated several other men. And I can remember like specific incidents like pretty far back, definitely high school, some junior high school, where I remember conversations, I remember things that happened. Things were very much marked in my mind, conversations that I would have with somebody about something that was, you know, somebody that was a lesbian, or my mom telling me that a cousin of mine was gay. Like, I remember these conversations when I don't think that they were in any way special in any other way except for the fact that they were about somebody who was lesbian, gay, or bisexual, and I kind of just like filed it away in my head. Oh, that's information I should keep. And I remember having conversations with my sister, who, although she would stand up for any other sort of civil rights, just hated gay people, hated homosexuality, said she didn't understand it. And I remember arguing with her long before I had any sort of conscious idea that this was me. I remember arguing with her saying, I don't understand why you're so hateful. And really feeling that it was something important for me to think about, although I don't think that I understood in terms of myself. And I just had these, what I thought were like really like kind of separate from myself things where I think...
Like you were a great civil rights believer or something, right?
Yeah, you know, and I thought it was just like this thing that I thought, and I think it was also very theoretical to me. Like, I didn't really have any concept of gay people actually existing. It was this really theoretical concept. And I think I even did that with myself in a way. It was like, I totally separated myself from, like, I'd have these, like, I remember with really close friends, I'd think, God, I just wanted to kiss her. That was so weird. And I really took it and I, like, put it away from myself. And it really, I didn't feel any connection to it, except for that, you know, I'd remember, like, you know, you'd have conversations with your friends where you share, like, these secrets, and that was, like, one that I knew that I could never talk about. And I really had the sense that that was something that I could never talk about, but it wasn't something that I thought about. I really never thought about it. It was like really fleeting through my head, and I think that I really separated myself from it entirely.
Don't you think that's a kind of way of, I mean, it's another thing like being fearful, in a sense. It's, I don't know, I find with myself that sometimes I feel so scared of something that I truly will not even think about it.
Right.
You know, because if I had to think about it, I would have to really think about it, etc. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to come back after our break and continue talking about sort of how you got through this and into UCLA and all this stuff. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute.
The things that I had been taught about homosexuality didn't compute as far as looking at my own son and saying, well, he is not these things that society has told me.
I really got helped at the PFLAG meeting. They helped me tremendously.
We went. We knew that we needed help.
We met wonderful, wonderful people. It was really a fantastic experience.
Don't let fear control your life. Call us now.
I'm glad I have a lesbian daughter. Otherwise, I wouldn't know all of you wonderful people, and I wouldn't have had this enriching experience.
Hi, welcome back to Get Used to It. I'm Sheila Kuehl, and my guests today are John Sherwood, Angel Angeles, and Mindy Michels. We are talking about young people in our movement, young people in our community, sort of what it feels like to get there, come out, and go beyond, I guess, to Pride. We were talking to Mindy about her life, as I'm sure you recall. Mindy, you were talking about sort of leading up to your own, I guess, realization or coming out to yourself about being a lesbian.
Yeah, like I said, I'd had these thoughts, but they weren't anything concrete. They weren't connected to me. And after I broke up with my boyfriend, who I actually went out with for 3 years, I started being more free in a lot of things in my life. One of the things that I did, I transferred schools from UC San Diego to UCLA, which had a much more political environment. And I began to see articles about lesbians and gay men and bisexuals in the daily paper on campus. And I started...
You mean positive articles?
Positive articles written by lesbians, gay men, bisexuals, articles written about people who were, articles written about events that were going on campus, and also advertisements for events that were going on campus, or debates, and sometimes not always positive, sometimes negative things that would, spark debates on campus, or positive articles that would spark debates on campus. But it was talked about, it was there, and I think I came to a realization that there were actually people who were lesbian, gay, or bisexual. They were on campus. Like, I could be walking down Bruin Walk and I would see somebody, and maybe they were, or maybe I would see somebody wearing a t-shirt. And I think that began to bring it into more of my realm of reality. It wasn't just this theoretical sort of concept that there were...
Because if there's a lot of them, it must be okay? I mean, what is it that changes that about it? Because that's really the notion of movement, don't you think? It's sort of like, if you feel all alone, you think you must be totally weird, and your parents must be right, and all those right-wing people must be right. But when you start to see a whole bunch more, what is it about that makes them wrong all of a sudden? Do you know what I mean? They're still saying the same thing, but it makes it feel better somehow when we find out that we're not alone, that there's a bunch of us. Why is that?
I don't know if I changed this. I mean, because, like I said, I didn't necessarily think that it was wrong, but I think that I subconsciously felt that it was really wrong. But I think that the idea that there were other people there meant that it could actually exist and not just as this theoretical concept. And I think also that, at least for me, at the same time I also met a woman who I very much fell for, and much more strongly than I'd ever felt. Not just, I want to kiss this woman.
That helps identity a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, not just I want to kiss this woman, but oh my God, what is going on with me? Because I couldn't set it aside anymore because it was shaping too much of how I was living my life and how I was feeling. And I think that I really began to deal with it in some sort of real way to say, what is it that I'm feeling for this woman? I need to really take a look at what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I think that the kind of the intersection of the two things, one, realizing that there was probably a place that I could go to now and maybe find out about this, and that I think almost it was the fact that I could maybe find people that I could talk to, because I had felt like there wasn't anybody that I could talk to. There wasn't anybody that I could say these things to. I wanted to kiss this woman. There wasn't anybody who I could say that to because everybody would think that I was really weird. But if there were other people that had the same feelings, then maybe these were the people that I could talk to. And especially because I was having the feelings so much more strongly now, I think I really began to feel that need. But it wasn't...
I'm sorry.
It wasn't until... It took me a long time before I actually spoke to somebody.
Did you talk to anyone in your family?
Not first. Definitely not first. The first person I talked to was a close friend of mine who I remember wanting to know so badly if he was gay. And I remember having conversations with friends. Do you think he's gay? Do you think he's gay? And I remember needing to know this because I wanted to talk to him.
And he's having conversations with his friends saying, do you think she's a lesbian? Do you think she's a lesbian?
And he used to talk about the gay community all the time, but he would never identify himself. And so it was one of those debates. It was like, he talks about it, he seems like he might be. And I think that it was still that sort of idea that I don't know if there's actually gay people. Because if I talk to somebody now and say, gee, I didn't know if Julia was gay, people laugh. I mean, people laugh really hard because it's hard not to know that he was gay.
Part of what you were talking about, Angel. I mean, in a sense, it's like you think everybody knows because we, I don't know, give clues or speak without having to say it, because it's a hard thing to say, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's funny for me. I told everybody, yet they're so shocked, but they already knew.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, we always thought, but, always that but.
Well, that's what happened when I came out to my parents. I mean, you guys are way ahead of me. I was 39, okay, by the time I came out to my parents. And I'd been lesbian, I mean, I knew it actively since I was 17, but everybody was closeted. I mean, there wasn't any. I went to UCLA and nothing. I was kicked out of my sorority for being queer. So it was just, it was.
And now they have a sorority for queers.
Now they have a sorority for queers. I know, and I'm one of their founding alums. Because I said, boy, what a match. But I mean, when I came out to my mom, she said, she took my hand, she went, it's okay, we always knew you liked girls better. But they didn't feel like they could say it to me. You know what I mean? Well, by the time you're 39, it's like they don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
You know, they put a lot of stuff into you. If you wait a really long time, I'm sorry you started too early. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
That's neat,
I'll
though.
go into the closet again.
What?
I'll go to the closet again. Come back to my parents later.
When he's 39.
I don't recommend it.
It's kind of neat that you had mentioned what your mom said, because I talked to some older people, you know, who came out and things didn't go so well.
Yeah.
You know, and I always talk to my younger friends how their parents, you know, disowned them and this and that. So I set myself up for that. You know, expected the worst. But nowadays, the kids my age, all my friends are so you're John. And I think it's really neat because everybody is starting to realize, you know, we're just like, you know, we're like everybody else.
So what's been the change? I mean, there is a big change, don't you think?
A big change.
I mean, what you're saying is you hear stories from other people who are older and they were totally rejected. And I mean, it sounds like you all went through enough rejection anyway. I mean, it was difficult enough, and the, you know, fighting you were talking about, and hate kind of words and silence almost in your case. But your friends are accepting.
I just think it's, I don't know, like just society makes a lot of, to me anyways, I feel society brings it up that gay people do this, you know, are bad, just negative, anything negative. So, you know, like my mom was grown up unbelieving in that, and my uncle and my grandparents, and all those people, you know, oh, John's gonna be married, and oh, we're not gonna have no fags in this family, everybody, you know, and when I told them, everybody's like, and I even found out a few of my family members were like, oh, John's a fag, oh man, but then they came around, you know, and I just went home for the first time in quite a few months, and, you know, everything went well.
Good.
You know, so, I mean, in the end, I guess things do get better, you know.
Well,
I can't say for everybody.
I guess one of the things is all three of you have, through all whatever adversity, have at least accepted that you're, you know, gay and lesbian. I mean, it seems to me that the most important thing is sticking with it. I mean, this is who I am, this is what I am, and everybody came in for some punishment, in essence, for it, either family or school or whatever. What's life like for you now, Angel?
Well, it's kind of different. Like just within the past year, it's very different because I would make decisions on how I related to people, how I interacted with people, based on being gay. And now it's more like that's a side thing now.
You mean like that was your whole identity?
That was, yes, practically I would walk around with the word gay stamped on my forehead. That's how people interact with me, and that's pretty much how I set myself up to be. Now it's like, well, you consume whatever you want. I know I'm gay, and most people do anyway. If you want to know, you can go ahead and ask me. But I don't go up to people now and say, you know what, I'm gay. I don't do that anymore.
Of course, before you were like the gay guy in the straight school.
Yeah.
And it's different now, right? I mean, now you're a gay guy with gay people, not only, but more. So that you don't have to be the representative of every gay person in the entire world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that makes a difference.
Considering where I'm at right now, there's like a predominance of gay people, so it's like it becomes less important. I don't feel the need to shout anymore. It's like, okay, I can fit in. I can do whatever I want now.
How about at City College, though, which is probably still predominantly
at City
straight?
College, actually, it's interesting because I don't find myself as the gay person in the straight society, as in more like they're here. And that's like they as in everybody, kind of. I mean, I really feel like I belong there because like there's just a lot of really unique individuals there, so I fit right in.
It is an interesting place.
Yeah, it is.
Considering it used to be called the State Normal School. Did you know that? That's the thing I always loved about it. That's why, there's a street over there called Normal Avenue.
Okay. Oh my
And when it
gosh.
first started, it was called the State Normal School. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Maybe it was because it was turning out everybody the same or something. And then when and that was UCLA. It was then it became the University of California Southern Branch. And when UCLA moved over to Westwood, it became LACC. But it was originally called the Normal School. So I'm sure that whoever named it that would look at it now and go, I think so. Of course, that's LA, really. Well, how about with you, Mindy? What's life like for you now?
Hectic.
Why?
I do a lot of political activism right now, and I wear several different hats on campus, in addition to being a student, which is probably the one that gets forgotten the most often. And I do a lot of activism on campus, and like you said earlier, on a national level.
Like what?
Well, on the campus level, I'm primarily involved with 10%, which is UCLA's Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual News magazine.
Let me ask you a question about lesbian, gay, bisexual, okay? Because it's a discussion, obviously, in the community. And I noticed that young political people, the term LGB, lesbian, gay, bisexual, just rolls off their lips. Is this a discussion still, or is this settled pretty much among your peers?
No, it's definitely still a discussion. I mean, and I think right now, in many youth political movements, it's definitely a big discussion.
Like whether bisexuals are as oppressed as lesbians and gays and therefore belong in the group, or what would you say the discussion is?
No, I think the discussion is more how to be inclusive of bisexual people within the movement, and listening to people who are bisexual saying, we are being excluded. Why are we being excluded when this is a movement that's talking about how we are excluded based on sexual orientation from so many things in society and discriminated against for these reasons? Why is our own movement turning around and discriminating against us? And where is the place that bisexuals fit into this movement?
Well, it's been a very dichotomous movement. I mean, first of all, we've been cut out, so there's the duality of straight, gay. And then I think the movement itself has adopted that. I mean, you said you had a boyfriend for 3 years, right? So you get in your first relationship with a woman. Which was your first relationship?
If you ask me, my first relationship was with a man, because that was definitely a relationship. But it definitely is something that I've faced, and I identify as a lesbian. But and I think especially because I identify as a lesbian, that relationship gets even more invalidated. And people say, when I first came into the community, people would say, oh, you've never had a relationship before. And I would look at them and go, what are you talking about? I had a relationship for 3 years. And they go, what do you mean? And I said, that relationship is still a relationship. And I found that being invalidated constantly.
So it's a political question for our movement around bisexuality, really. What do you think the objection is?
My own personal belief is that people are really threatened by it. If you look at numbers, if you look at it, we constantly take the Kinsey scale, say the 10% number, but what that 10% number is that 10% says that 10% of the population is homosexual exclusively, and it says that 80% of the population is bisexual.
Right. So we're worried we're going to be swamped with bisexuals in our movement?
I think people...
They're moving into the neighborhood.
Actually, I think a lot of people within the movement, I mean, I personally tend to believe that most people are probably bisexual, and I think that it's really threatening to people's identities. You know, we work so hard to come up with an identity that I am a lesbian or I am a gay man, and then to have somebody go, I'm bisexual, all of a sudden that whole identity is threatened.
Snicker. You know, I remember one of the reasons why I stopped going to the Long Beach Center is because to help myself, I identified as bisexual when I first started coming out, just because I felt more comfortable with that. See, I could handle liking men and women, even though I more or less lean towards the man. You know, so I just, like, when it comes all down to it, I can't hate somebody for feeling the same way I do. Transgender, bisexual, gay, lesbian. You feel the same way in some way. So how can I just say, oh, well, you're not, no, I just don't want to talk to you. You're not really, gay, you're not good for us.
It's a good point I hadn't thought about, John, that really it's sort of it can be a transition feeling. It doesn't have to be transitional, but a feeling, even if you've never had a relationship with a woman or with a man, you would say, well, I'm sure I could. I mean, as an element of your own coming out. But I think, Mindy, the objection that I've heard and that have felt myself sometimes in the movement is that if you're bisexual, you have the ability to move anytime you want into this kind of heterosexual privilege place. And there is a privilege to it.
I agree with you that there is a privilege, but then I think that also that, I mean, what we say, I mean, what we talk about all the time is that we say we feel a certain way and that people should not be discriminating against us because of the people whom we're attracted to. And so then how can we turn around and discriminate against somebody else because they might be attracted to the opposite sex and to the same sex? And I think that that's, you know, something that we as a movement really need to deal with and look at, because I think that, you know, I myself identify as a lesbian and I date women and I don't see myself dating a man in the near future. However, if I look inside myself and say, what is my actual sexual orientation? I know that there have been men I was attracted to. I had a boyfriend. And I find that myself as being a very political person, I find that labels can be used for a lot of different things, and I think that a lot of the times they're very destructive to actually like label ourselves, and that's why I choose to label myself as a lesbian, because to the heterosexual community, that's something that they really have to deal with. They can't write off the fact that I'm bisexual, but I find it very important within my own movement to be verbal about the fact that my actual sexual orientation, if I had to like label a sexual orientation, I would say bisexual, and that we can't discriminate against people because of who they're attracted to any more than we are asking people to not discriminate against us.
It becomes a question. I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
I was going to just say what she said. You know, we get discriminated against, so why do we want to go and discriminate against somebody else for what we're fighting to stop, or what, you know?
For the answer to that question, join us after the break. We'll be right back.
Hey, faggot, come here, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't want any trouble.
You got a problem, faggot?
I'm not gonna fight you.
Oh, yeah?
Hi, welcome back to Get Used to It. Today we're talking, as you know, because I know you've been glued to the television set through this entire show, about young people in our movement, in our community, and sort of what's, how they got where they are and where they're going. And John just posed a question to us. We were talking about the inclusion of bisexuals in our movement and any controversy that may have stirred up. And John said, well, they've discriminated against us, but why should we discriminate against heterosexuals? I mean, or against bisexuals?
Yeah,
is that what you meant?
Heterosexuals discriminating against us.
Right.
So why would the gay community want to discriminate against another member of their community, whether or not they're bisexual?
You all see bisexuals as members of our community.
Yes.
I do.
I wanted to address something that you said. You brought up the point of privilege.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that's really important to look at is that as soon as you start ranking privilege, I mean, we've got different privileges sitting right here on this couch. I mean, it's if you're male, if you're a person of color, if you're disabled, if, you know, you're young or you're old, or, you know, all of these things give people different privileges. And I mean, and especially in a movement like ours, which tries to embrace the diversity, if we start ranking privilege, you get into this battle of who's more oppressed than who, when I think in reality that, I mean, the core thing is that we need to work on the fact that this oppression exists and that it stems from the same roots.
Well, I guess, are bisexual people oppressed?
If they're with somebody of the same sex, if they're with somebody of the opposite sex, their attraction to people of the same sex still exists.
So it's really their gay side that makes them be oppressed. I mean, that's why I was talking about. No,
not necessarily.
But I don't, okay, keep going.
Well, I would think that as bisexuals, like, there's certain different dimensions added to that. I mean, I think that a lot of the gay community does not actually give a validation on being bisexual. A lot of them just say, "Oh, you're just confused. You just don't want to make a decision yet."
You thought you were gay.
Yeah,
I think also, I mean, to say your gay side, like, what is your gay side? Like, do they wake up in the morning and they say, gee, this is the gay side of the bed, this is the straight side of the bed? I mean, you know, it's their identity, and I mean, I think that it's hard for us to sit here and talk about it since, I mean, I don't know, I know that I identify as a lesbian, I'm not practicing a bisexual lifestyle at all, to use the word lifestyle in quotes. So I don't know that I want to sit here and speak for people who identify as bisexual within our movement.
But if we're just talking about freedom to love whom you love, then why wouldn't your T-shirt say National Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Heterosexual Student Caucus? Because that's really about who they love too.
I don't think that in our society that heterosexuals, and as you said earlier, before we were on the show, that heterosexuals have any problem having their lifestyle validated.
So it's a matter of pride, too.
Definitely.
Really. Getting to pride. I mean, that's what I was thinking about when you were talking, John. It's not, we don't want to hate other people. We just don't want to hate ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's, I mean, like it just says, self-hatred. You know, what's the purpose?
Well, that's really been the stuff we were talking about all this past, and maybe, I mean, if you're anything like me, there's always these vestiges left of it, because they want us to hate ourselves. So, how do you see the future for yourselves? I mean, here's this world in which there's, you know, stories every day in the newspapers now about gays and lesbians, national organizations, validation by the President of the United States, sort of.
Okay, next topic.
Next topic,
First we got to read our lips, now we have Clinton.
So, but how do you see your future? Do you think it's going to be different because you're gay, John?
Yeah, I think it does. It will make a difference. But, you know, like I said, you know, I've talked to older gay gentlemen and ladies, women, and, you know, tongue-tied right now.
It's okay.
So I talked to them, you know, and I've even talked to a couple couples who are older, you know, who've been together for quite a long time. And I asked them, you know, what was it like? You know, it's the same thing like we're talking about now. And from what I hear from them, I see my life doing well, you know, because, you know, I'm gay and I went through all this BS to be comfortable with myself, to be accepted by my family. You know, I'm off drugs, went through all that crap just to be off drugs. I'm getting a job. I'm going to go to college for lighting and sound technician, you know, after my internship is over. You know, so I see my life doing real well, you know, because I've gone through all my rough waters, I guess you could say.
Do you see yourself in a relationship, in a couple? You don't have to answer.
You know what, really, that's like the last thing from my mind. I'm not thinking about it, you know, if it happens, it will, but right now I just don't need a man to
be valid, huh?
Yeah, to be in my life right now. I mean, if it happens, great, you know, I mean, go with it, but I don't know, not yet. I just got out of one that just wasn't so well, so I'm in no hurry to have to go through it again.
I understand. How about you, Angel? What's your future look like to you?
Well, it's not going to be all based on being gay, like I said before. I can see myself in a social services field, and actually, for me, I guess gay would be somewhat of an advantage because of, like, the discrimination that I've gone through, the oppression. By the time I get to that point in my life, I'll have so much under my belt so that I can relate to the forms of oppression, the discrimination, all these things that another person will come to me with, and I can just really empathize on that level because of what I've gone through. I can actually say, you know what, I really do know what you're going through. And for me, that's just a real big advantage, to have been once the underdog of society.
So to be an empathetic counselor.
Yeah.
So you would then disagree with people who say that being a person of color is a whole sort of more of a problem than being gay. There are people in various of the people of color movements that don't like us comparing ourselves as gay and lesbian and bisexual people to them because our oppression is not as great.
I would beg to differ, because even in our own community, we put each other down. We also place little judgment values, even on appearance alone. I mean, I have long hair and I get stuff for it, and I expect the gay people to be okay with it as for my own self-expression. And it's like, for me, it feels like you guys are being hypocrites. I'm not exactly sure where my train of thought was, but
well, I guess it's you were saying that you would be able to understand oppression, but of course, as a person of color, you would have experienced.
Well, I'm both, so
like everything.
I'm both, but they're both forms of oppression. I would not say that they're equal or different. It's still oppression, but for me, if I were to really basically judge it, I would say our oppression is greater than actual color. because as for color, people can discriminate on the way you look. Other people can tell right off. For us, we have to hide, or be closeted or whatever you wish to say. And even then, we're ashamed of our own selves. And just like, I remember one TV show saying, yeah, I was finally glad there were normal-looking people there. Yeah, that's us. I'm like, what's behind that then? Are you saying, well, it's not okay to look like this. It's not okay to be swishy. It's not okay to have long hair. It's not okay to be a drag queen.
That's what they were saying at the march this year. I mean, not everybody, but there was this sort of sense of relief, and not from the march organizers who were, who were wonderfully radical about inclusiveness, but just commentators, on the press, that there was this relief that there were just so many people there who looked normal, because and relief in the community, because they used to, they would show in the march in '87, it was all dykes on bikes, and drag queens, and that was supposed to be our community, and everybody was sort of embarrassed. But I think I agree with you. That's not right. That is who we are.
They're gay. We have to embrace them.
I think I find it really frustrating because people talk about how if those drag queens just wouldn't come out, if those dykes just wouldn't come out, we would be accepted so much more easily. And I think that it's true that the media focuses on the people that are the most extreme and makes that to be the image of our community in the media. And I think that's where it comes from in our community, is saying, why don't they show the people that are quote unquote normal? And I think that the problem lies in the media giving a misrepresentation of who our community is, and that these are all part of people in our community, and that our community embraces a wide, diverse range of people, and that instead of our community attacking other people in the community, that our community needs to attack the media for their representations of us.
Okay.
Well, we do it too, kind of, like when we have these big billboards and we're all pride and we say, well, we're all kinds of people. You don't see any drag queens in this billboard. I mean, that's the person you don't see, right? You don't see the leather dyke or whatever. We're going to hide those people and show our community is varied in color, and, they're old and they're young, and all those acceptable kinds of diversity.
It's funny, like, just kind of like what they were saying, I always have people tell me, oh, when you first came here, we thought you were straight trade. And can you guess who? And
I wonder who that was.
Anyways, so they're going, oh, but you don't look gay. Do I say thank you, or do I slap them?
Right.
How am I supposed to look, to be gay? Do I need to have the limp wrist and the swish? Because I'll have it if that's what they want. I'm just me, myself,
Well, maybe the future means that we do get to really be sort of who we are, and maybe that's a job for the movement. I mean, why are you so active, Mindy? What does it do for you?
It's different. I think one of the things that originally brought me into political activism is that I came out not in a relationship, and I came out in a community that was political. My friends were political, but I believe really strongly in that for us, breathing is political. We have to be political because, otherwise we can't get married to the people that we love. We don't get domestic partnership benefits. You can walk down the street and somebody can bash you. And people say that it's not important, that I'm gay, but that's just part of who I am, and I don't really want to work on it. I don't want to be part of this movement. But I think that we have to, and not just of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, civil rights movement, but of a progressive political movement, or movements, because if people aren't active and aren't organizing, if students aren't active in organizing, then things aren't going to change. And if we look back and say these are the things that we can do today, it's because there was Stonewall, and it's because there was the Black Civil Rights Movement and all the different civil rights movements that have made it possible for us to do the things that we're currently doing.
Well, and it's interesting because all three of you have identified sort of getting in touch or feeling better about yourselves because you got in touch with something that was organized by, essentially activists. A couple of guys that started this center, a couple of people who started the Long Beach Center. The GALA, the student organization at UCLA, when they first got started, one of the guys that organized it ended up being the AIDS commissioner for the city of Los Angeles a lot later in his life, and he was obnoxious as a student, wonderfully obnoxious, the way you have to be as an activist,
And I think that's the thing with students also, though, is that on most political movements, like, students have been at the progressive front of a lot of political movements. And if you look at things like the student organizations, you know, we're the National Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual Student Caucus includes bisexual.
Tell me about the caucus. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that thought.
That's
you mean
correct.
that's a progressive element of the caucus.
Right, and I mean, and including bisexual and making a serious commitment to including diversity. There's also just recently formed the Lesbian, Gays, Bisexuals of Color Caucus, and these are affiliates of the United States Student Association, which is a progressive student organization that works on grassroots organizing and lobbying. And I really think that like these are the students and the youth are the people that are coming up with new ideas and are learning from the experience of people that have been in the movements, but also don't have the same ties necessarily and the same, you know, they don't. You know, they don't feel that they have to be as it was. There's space to have new ideas and to change things and to embrace things that maybe weren't okay before.
Speaking of which, you told me that 10% of the student publication you work at UCLA is coming out with an issue about sex, and the cover has a man and a woman on it. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the issue is will actually be coming out on National Coming Out Day.
What's that about?
It's about waking up people in our community and saying that sexual diversity, that there are bisexual people, and I mean we hope that it stirs up a lot of controversy on campus because this is the paper of the gay community, the gay, lesbian, bisexual community on campus, the queer community on campus. This is our paper, and so to have that community look at a paper and see a picture of a man and a woman, that's probably the most radical thing that we could do. And to have people open it up and look and say, you know what, there are people in our community that enjoy sex or enjoy affection or enjoy relationships with people of the opposite sex too, and that's part of us.
So in terms of sort of a long-term future, do you feel that you'll always be identified as gay or lesbian for the rest of your lives? This will be, you know, this is a gay man, this is a lesbian.
I hope so. I already had to deal with it.
I don't mean that you won't be one, but
yeah,
I mean just, you know, you were talking about that was my whole identity and now it's not.
Yeah.
But they don't leave us alone on this, and I wonder if it's going to go away even in the next century. But you said yes, you said no.
Yeah.
I don't think I will always systematically be, oh, well, this is Angel, the gay one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really think that society is going to progress farther than that as to just like focus on my sexuality alone, because that doesn't define me as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, is that all there is to it? For me, it's like to be labeled the gay one is very limiting. That just goes, all these stereotypes just go along with the gay one. I mean, it feels like a finger's being pointed at me just for one thing alone. I mean, I'm more than that. I'm more than a sexuality. I am a person. So I really don't find myself being labeled as the gay one.
So do you want it to be no big deal?
Well, for right now, yes. I want it to be a big deal so that it can be accepted in society, so that it doesn't become a big deal anymore. So that it's like, okay, next.
Well, let me ask you, since there's only about a minute left, what would you say to the people your age or around your age who are watching this show now, if you had anything to say to them?
Well, let's see. If there's just anything you're dealing with, find somebody to talk to you, someone you can trust. Or if you can't trust anybody, you got Covenant House 9 line. It's 800 number, 9 the rest of the way. Call the Gay and Lesbian Community Services Center. They'll refer you anything you need.
And have pride in who you are.
And have pride in who you are.
Whoever that is.
You know, love yourself.
And get active and organize.
Yeah.
Definitely get active and organize, because I think we need the youth. I mean, if we don't have the youth, then we don't have a movement anymore.
Angel?
Don't let other people define you. Don't let the stereotypes define you. Define yourself.
Thank you very much. Thanks, John. Thanks, Angel. Thanks, Mindy. It's been a great show. It's a pleasure meeting you. I'm glad I get to do the show. I get to meet like really interesting people, and I look forward to meeting all of you too. And don't forget to tune in every time the show is on the air, and especially next month and the month after and the month after. And remember, we're here. We're queer. We're fabulous. Get used to it.